To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244 268672. That's 0244 268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives. To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244 268672. That's 0244 268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to all our cherished participants. We would like to welcome you all to today's PowerPad webinar, and that's our ILS webinar series, which we'll be discussing today, developing a functional strategy. As we all know, this is being hosted by the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. And as we have communicated earlier, this is the ILS webinar series, and we bring this your way every month to give our participants and our followers some educative content as we are passionate about developing managers and corporate executives. And so once again, you are welcome to this evening's webinar, which will be discussing developing a functional strategy. In a world where execution defines success, it's no longer enough to have grand corporate goals. The real game changer now is how each function of our organization aligns and delivers strategically. And so today we will dive deep into that space where strategy stops being theory but becomes action. And so stick and stay with us, don't go anywhere, because today's session promises to be a very insightful one. And we hope that by the time we all leave here today, we'll be taking some few nuggets with us to thrive in our various industries and fields. I am Iraja AJ Klein, and I would be your moderator for today's session. I would be bringing our facilitator in shortly. But before that, we want to take note of some few ground rules before we take our facilitator's presentation. And as usual of us, we would want to be interactive with our participants. And so whilst the facilitator is presenting, if you have any questions or any comments, you can drop them in the comment section. We want to make this a dialogue and not a monologue. And so let's try to put in our suggestions, our comments, any questions we have in the comment section. And after the facilitator is done with his presentation, I would be taking the questions and I would be engaging the facilitator with your questions. And so let's try to make this interactive as much as possible. All right, so let's get into the main business for this evening. I would read the facilitator's profile, and then I bring him in to take us through today's presentation. All right, so our facilitator is in the person of Dr. Jeff Bassey. He is a leadership and strategy expert. Jeff has consulted and trained for more than 200 organizations, including Bank of Ghana, MTN, Newmont Gold Ghana, USAID, Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Stock Exchange, Kempinski Hotel, Coca-Cola, Talo Oil, and the University of Ghana appointments, and sits on the University of Ghana Appointments Advisory Committee. Jeff is the founder of the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, and he is also the founder of the HR Certification Center Ghana. And so, ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for this evening's session, he is in the person of Dr. Jeff Bassey. Doc, good evening, and you're welcome.
Right, a very good evening to you, Erajua, and all of our very august participants, our managers. I imagine because of the topical area we are looking at, functional strategy, we have a lot of functional heads of departments, maybe unit heads, and a few senior managers who are online. A very good evening to you all. And if you are joining us from outside of Ghana, maybe depending on where you find yourself now, a good afternoon or a good morning to you, and welcome to today's session. Right, so we are zooming straight into the session. Let me have great. We are zooming straight into the session. Our focus today is on developing a functional strategy. As I go around consulting for organizations, I have done some 42 companies this year. Normally at the beginning of the year, you would have a lot of, strategy formulation sessions to do with various organizations. And around this time of the year, middle of the year, we do media reviews for companies. So I am hardly in Accra this month and next month, leading strategy review sessions for quite a number of organizations. If you do not have any strategy you are pursuing or strategic plan you are pursuing, or probably not having even done strategy formulation for the financial year, chances are that you have very little to review. And it is amazing how many companies, and because I've played ball with a number of organizations in Ghana, many companies just put together a set of plans and then they call it a strategy. Today, we will not be teaching the full-fledged of strategy, but we are assuming that your organization does have a strategic plan, for which reason you as a functional head got to be developing your own strategy that aligns with. Yes, a few of you may not actually have the plan there. However, you are heading a unit and you need to carry your team along to, if you may, align with the direction the organization is going. So to all of you, some 450 persons, I'm told, who sign up for this session we are running now, running on StreamYard, and I'm told it's also running on some social media platforms. To the 450 persons or so who are online, we pray and hope that we can, help you to bring some structure in your functional strategy and be able to drive the goals of, or the objectives of your function that aligns to the goals of the entire organization. Quickly, before I get into the session, let me tell you a little bit about us. So we are the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, an executive development institute with focus on our two main areas, leadership and strategy. Those are our focus areas. Those of you who know me as founder of the HR Certification Center, I am now with the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, and our focus is in the areas of leadership and strategy. We roll out four fundamental areas, or four areas that we have been pursuing for a couple of years now. One is executive leadership program. Our executive leadership program, is geared towards managers and senior managers and those in the C-suite executive roles. And indeed, if you are not yet in the C-suite role, this particular program becomes a major training ground for those who want to get into the C-suite. We just passed out our cohort number 6 last Friday. Some 41 persons, or some 41 managers and senior managers who just passed out from the executive leadership program. Otherwise, our main flagship course is the Certified Strategy Professional. Certified Strategy Professional, which targets managers at all layers, all levels, whether you are a level 1 manager, I'm talking about line managers, branch managers, the guys who manage people and activities. Otherwise, you are also in level 2, which is senior management. Senior managers manage managers. And then those are the third layer of management, executive managers who manage the organization. But we've also had professionals come through. They may not be in management positions, but we've had a number of lawyers, a number of medical doctors. I don't know what keeps attracting them. CEO of the Synlab himself just also finished the program with us. I've seen a couple of military officers and managers from all backgrounds, all disciplines, from finance to marketing to sales, HR, operations, risk, credit management, etc. We just passed out our cohort number 6 also of the Certified Strategy Professional, passing out some 85 managers and professionals. Then we also do in-house trainings. We facilitate leadership and strategy sessions for quite a number of companies. We've been through Bank of Ghana, through MTN, Talo Oil, Casapreco, Newmont, Coca-Cola. Quite a number of organizations have engaged our services, and a few of them indeed outside of Ghana have also engaged our services. The final area of our focus is in consulting services. So we develop strategic plans for quite a number of organizations. We've done a couple of banks, we've done some of the real estate from DevTraco to Cape May, the guys who developed the signature apartment. We're currently working on the Bank of Ghana hospitals strategic plan, and a number of rural banks. I got introduced to the rural banks sometime in 2021, and ever since they have been engaging our services. So we develop 5-year, 3-year, 10-year strategic plans for organizations. We also build the balanced scorecard performance management for various companies, Kempinski Hotel, Casa Preco, and the rest. We develop their balanced scorecard performance management systems. And then finally, we also develop corporate governance protocols for a number of organizations. So these are our 4 areas of focus as an institution. And I'm sure you might want to consider studying with us. These are the list of organizations we have touched base with in this organization, in this country. Hollard Enterprise, Toyota, Absa Bank, Talo Oil, EcoBank, KPMG, USAID, etc. USAID, unfortunately, is closing down. I was one of the consultants who was in charge of managing the close down of USAID here in Ghana. Right. So we are located at East Legon. That's our executive training center. Both the Institute of Leadership and Strategy and the HR Certification Center are all within that premises. I mean, various or different facilities within the same premise. We are right behind GT Bank on the Lagos Avenue stretch, otherwise the Mensvik Hotel stretch. You find GT Bank, and right behind GT Bank is our executive training center here in East Legon, Accra, Ghana. Right, so we want to get straight into why we are here this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are joining us from. And our major topic we are looking at is developing a functional strategy. I'm going to start by helping you to appreciate the environment of strategy, because you cannot develop a strategy for your function if you do not appreciate the larger spectrum of the strategic environment the organization is operating in. As much as I know that I'm not here to teach organizational strategy, nor talk about strategic planning process, or talk about strategy formulation or strategy execution or the control of strategy, etc. You cannot do a good functional strategy without first understanding or appreciating the strategic environment the organization finds itself, and for that matter, operates in. Right, so let's try to appreciate the strategic environment. Technical guys, kindly get the slide moving. Kindly get a slide moving, technical guys, please. And just a jiffy, the conversation will take off in earnest. So just give me just a minute for it to get a slide rolling, and then we are on. Right, okay, so right, so the strategy environment starts from an organization appreciating the fact that it needed to provide a strategic direction for the organization. You needed to provide a strategic direction for the organization. And that we normally put it in 5 different compartments. We look at the understanding the organization, which I'm not going to bore you with, why the organization exists, its purpose statement, who it intends to serve, why it must continue. Call it the mission statement. Then the organization also looks at its future, what it intends to become, or how well, how high, how quality it intends to pursue its mission. Call it the vision statement. But then there are also some guiding principles that aid the organization in getting to where it intends to get to. Call them the values or the corporate values. And for me, in my experience as a lecturer, as a consultant, as a corporate trainer, it does look to me as if, it does seem to me as if many companies only do these kind of things for prestige purposes. You get into organizations and they have vision statement written and framed up and hung at the reception of the company. Talk to managers of their vision statement and they'll rattle it for you. But when you start the executive, the leadership training, and you start aligning or asking them to help you align their values to why the organization exists in terms of mission and vision, and then they start fumbling. So it does look like having values had only become prestigious enough for organizations to do. Then there's also the SWOT. My next slide will help us to appreciate SWOT from the organizational level that trickles down to the functional level in the organization. Beyond that, we also want to understand the organization's environment. I mean, strategy formulation is fundamentally about relating a company to its environment. So you want to appreciate the organization's political, economic, sociocultural, technological, legal, etc. environment. Then we also do industry analysis. I'm only helping you to appreciate the environment of strategy. So when we are having a conversation on developing a functional strategy, you as a manager would know that you are not just acting in silos or in a vacuum, but your work got to be encapsulated within the direction the organization is going. So we also do, larger spectrum of industry analysis, where we look at competitor analysis and look at the customer analysis. And normally that discrepancy, the gap between what competitors are doing and what a customer wants becomes your basis or the basis for your strategy. Now, I normally say that today size is no longer an advantage to any company. Size, that we are big, we can do big ticket deals. That was before 2010. Today, organizations that have competitive, continuous advantage, continuous competitive and sustainable advantage are the ones who are able to learn and act faster than the competition. And when I talk about learning, I'm not referring to training and development. I'm talking about being able to conduct situational analysis or situation analysis on customer preferences, on government legislation, on how technology is driving how business is conducted, competitor analysis, all of that. And that helps you to refocus or redefine your strategy. Then you create the enabling environment, i.e. your processes, your systems, your culture, aligning your people. Then you experiment and implement. And every financial year, organizations work themselves got to go through this exercise. And that is what I choose to call learning, because when the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end to that organization is in sight. I'll say that again. When the rate of change on the outside, the rate at which customer preferences are changing, how they want business to be or services to be delivered to them, technology driving business, government legislation, globalization, if the organization's internal responses do not commensurate those exogenous or external forces, chances are that organization is going to soon be filing for bankruptcy. And one organization we all will identify with is Nokia. Some years ago, 4, if not 6 out of every 10 persons holding a mobile device would have been holding Nokia. But Nokia suffered from what I chose to call tunnel vision. They slotted their eyes into the tunnel. They were not interested in what was happening outside of them. So much so that when they have to file for bankruptcy and Microsoft came to their aid, the outgoing CEO, the CEO of the erstwhile organization, made a statement. He said, "We did nothing wrong, but somewhat we lost." That day, I asked myself if Nokia really had a CEO in the first place, because we don't only fail by taking step backwards, we also fail by refusing to take steps forward. You cannot remain at the same place. You cannot fail to be aligning to you cannot fail to be aligning to customer preferences and still claim that it's everything, and still claim that you are doing something right. Then, so we also look at certain goals, initiatives that organization, must be taking. We look at various analysis from all the strategic frameworks, from the McKinsey's framework, the Porter's framework. We look at the GE McKinsey 7S model. All of those things help us to formulate strategy for the organization. Beyond all of this, we also do formulation of the strategy every year, because you got to be reviewing your strategies so that you are sure that you are aligned. Strategy is not a static plan. No. Strategies are emergent, they are fluid, and must be reviewed frequently to align to the external environment of the organization. And then we also put in execution and implementation plans, where we want to align the various segments of the strategy that I'll be revealing to you in the next couple of minutes. We do alignment, because when it comes to strategy, the watchwords are synchronicity and congruency. You must achieve fitness. The strategy must align, otherwise you cannot drive it from the corporate level that trickles down to or cascades down to the business unit strategies, and then finally the functional strategies, which conversation we'll be having in just a few months. Then we look at how do we align people and culture, and that's a leadership question that drive the strategy. Because my colleagues or folks, employees, team members, workers do not follow documented plans. You would have gone to Aqua Safari, you would have gone to Royal Senchi to develop strategy. Today, the gig is with the Peninsula in Akosombo, or the Safari Valley Resort at the Edukrom. I mean, these are the places we go to facilitate strategy for these companies. They pay loads of money. I mean, you can be paying 5,000-6,000 per head per night by 5 nights, cruising on the river, the food, the fuel driven in and out. Most of the time, when organizations return from strategy sessions, they're already running into millions in terms of cost of running the strategy. And then when they return to base, the strategy doesn't see the light of day. The leadership power thrown behind strategy in terms of execution is what the employees are following, because employees do not follow documented plans, they follow leaders. Then a communication that is put in place, and for of course the control measures, the shocks that will hit the strategy in course of its implementation, the control measures, how you take care of the risks, etc. And then final part of the strategic plan is about evaluation and control, where we look at the various metrics and the various KPIs. That's where we introduce the balanced scorecard that helps us to measure the performance of the organization from all the perspectives, from learning and growth to internal business processes to the customer's perspective to all the financial metrics and indicators that tell whether the organization is doing well or not. Thereafter, once we measure the performance, we look at it, we match it against the budgeted or what is in the strategy, and that discrepancy, or what we call the performance improvement zone, becomes the basis for any meaningful review to be done. Beyond the strategy planning process, the next area we look at is the strategy formulation. So we look at the formulation of the strategy, where we want to first understand the steps of the organization. Right. So this what you see on your screen is what is the framework or the picture that represent every year's strategy formulation. If you are not in a senior management role yet, and probably you've not been getting invited into strategy sessions, you may not know exactly what goes on there. This is the picture you see on your screen, where the step one is to understand the organization, the mission, vision, the value. Step two is to understand the organization's environment. And so we look at the strengths of the organization, advantage of those strengths. Then we look at the weaknesses and how do we ensure that we can mitigate the effect of the weaknesses. Those two are usually internal. And so we are also interested in all the functions in the organization, from sales and marketing to finance to HR to operations to R&D to risk and credit, treasury, depending on the industry you find yourself. But there are also external or exogenous forces that impact on the organization. Call it the opportunities and the threats. They are external. We identify our threats, so we take advantage of them. We identify our opportunities, so we take advantage of them. We also identify the threats of the organization, so we can position the company to mitigate the impact of the threats on the organization. Normally, when we are doing the external ones, which are opportunities and threats, we do what we call the EFE, the external factor evaluation. It's a technical thing. I can't do it with you right here. So we do the EFE to know whether the organization to have strategic initiative that would rather address its threats, or just focus on taking advantage of its opportunities. It's a question of resource allocation. Any which way, we are going to put resources in both of them, whether we are addressing the threat or we want to take advantage of opportunity. We will do investment in both, but where to put the larger chunk of the investment will be largely dependent on the result when we would have conducted the external factor evaluation on your organization. Then a big one comes in. How then do we set goals and objectives of the organization based on what we know of the organization's capabilities? I already mentioned that strategy formulation, it's about relating a company to its environment. So first, we try to know and understand the organization and its environment. That is the first two slides. So we try to, the first two are to help us understand the organization and its environment. Then the last two, which are goals and objectives, and then what you see in the red, where the real work happens, is where we try to formulate the direction for the organization. So we set goals, and my next slide will help you explore various areas that the organization can focus on, particularly in this VUCA business world, to help you set goals for the company. Yeah, so sorry for that break. So we look at the goals of the organization. Now, we normally want to leave goals at the corporate level. You will appreciate it in my next two slides. But then functions, where the discussion today is on, will now develop objectives based on the goals at the corporate level. Don't confuse the two. So goals are normally very broad, and I normally encourage organizations to pursue goals at the corporate level. But based on those goals, various functions should now then develop objectives. What that technically means is that you can have 2 or 3 functions or departments in organization pursuing a common goal for the company. In the same vein, you can have one organization that develop goals that you can have one function that develops, objectives that address more than one goals in the company. Right. So my next two slides help you to appreciate the role of the goals up there and where you come in if you're a functional head, how to align your objectives to the corporate goals of the organization in order to remain relevant as a functional head in the organization. I normally say that CEOs go to, board meetings to defend a lot of, issues. Figures, talk about capitalization, to growing the total asset of the organization, to demonstrating return on investment or return on asset and delivering profit on the table. When they return from those board meetings, which we normally refer to as the war rooms, when they come back, then the wisest thing for them to do is to distribute the fire amongst everybody. Finance have to take its portion of that fire. Marketing have to take its portion of that fire, operations guy, HR guys, R&D, etc. And when you drop the ball, we have to make sure we take the ball from you. I have been fortunate to work with a number of CEOs in this country, a number of CEOs of major organizations. Some of the time, we returned from the strategy formulation session and we needed to fire one or two managers because they are no longer relevant to where the organization wants to go, because they are unable to quickly align, So we set goals out of which we deduce objectives at the various functional levels in the organization. Then where the real work is what you see in the red, box. We do strategic alternatives, those goals we want to achieve. What are the various means we can achieve them? Because strategy fundamentally is about making choices. And I normally say that the courage to choose is the heart of strategy. If the goal is to move from Accra to Kumasi, for those of you who are listening to me from Ghana, and if you're outside of Ghana, Accra is our national capital and Kumasi is our next largest commercial capital in Ghana. It's about a 4-hour drive, a 40-minute flight in between. Now, if you're traveling from Accra to Kumasi, you are going to look at various options to get into Kumasi. You're either going by airplane, or you're going by a private vehicle, or you're going by a commercial vehicle, etc. Either of them comes with its merits and demerits. If you're going by flight, the advantage, of course, is that it takes it easy on your body. You don't get to go through a lot of stress. And of course, the time is very short. Apart from the few minutes you spend at the airport, checking in and getting ready to board, the real flight is just about 40 minutes, and then you are in Kumasi to rest your body, etc. But what does that come with? What are the disadvantages? You got to make sure that you are good on money, because it's quite expensive to do so relative to if you were traveling by road. There is also the risk of flight cancellation. I have had so many instances of flight cancellation, because there are times where I have to train for 3-4 companies in one day. I recall this particular day where I'd had to do a session for Ghana Revenue Authority here in Accra. That was during the era of Reverend Amit Shaddai as the Commissioner General. I had a call from him to run a training for he as the Director General, and then the Commissioner General, the commissioners, and the deputy commissioners. It was difficult for me to take the appointment because I had already accepted to do Ghana Institution of Surveyors in Kumasi. But somehow they managed to convince me how they were going to get me, to the airport very quickly, just so that traffic holdup doesn't worry me, blah, blah, blah. So I accepted. The same day, I'd had to come back to Accra to do a leadership session for Benchy Enchel, Lechin and Coleman Law Firm in Ebri. So these are 3 trainings I'd got to take in a day. And I assured Ghana Institutional Surveyors that they were going to see me in the afternoon. They should just position to pick me up at the airport, etc. I got to the airport, and unfortunately for me, the flight had been cancelled. And because I had to be with another organization, I didn't have the time to take an early flight, etc. And so that is one of the risks, for instance, that comes with if you have to go with flight. But if you also are going by a private vehicle, You're either driving yourself and then your spinal cord will pay the price, or and of course you have to buy a lot of fuel. Otherwise, if you are going by a driver, you got to pay the driver, you got to find accommodation, you got to feed the driver, etc. If you are going by a commercial vehicle like VIP, get ready to be on that road for about 7 hours. You don't just stop anywhere you like. It's a commercial vehicle. You will watch a Jacko movies, whether you like it or not, all through the journey, etc. Now, we got to make a choice. And that choice we are making is what leads me to the next one, what we call evaluation of strategic alternatives. What are all the alternatives we want to use to get into Kumasi? We got to evaluate all of them. I pray and hope that you are able to extrapolate the conversation to corporate issues, though I was giving traveling to Kumasi in a VIP example, because you come from different industries. If you were from one company, I would have picked a lot of intelligence on your company and guide you to navigate the strategic evaluation journey. But you have to do evaluation from financial perspective. What is the impact of that decision on the finances of the organization? What about the time constraint? What about the impact on the brand image of the organization? What about the social implication? And we got to do a cost-benefit analysis. Then we would now make strategic decisions. And I normally tell managers, senior managers, that we don't leave strategy sessions with discussions. We leave with decisions, So we got to make decisions, and those decisions got to be anchored in the organization's vision, where it intends to go, its values, and if you may, the philosophy of top management. I choose to call it the tone at the top. The direction top management wants to go have a lot of impact on which areas we choose. Right. So after now understanding the strategic environment, I hope I've been able to help you a bit to appreciate the environment of strategy. The next to do is that as a functional head, as the head of finance, as the head of operations, as the head of marketing, as the head of HR, as the head of sales, you got to align or develop your own strategy, if you may, that helps you to, align to the organization and where it intends to go. And if you're unable to do that very well, a very good CEO will do something about you. If you drop the ball will be taken away, from you. Right. So let's get into that session. Now, there are different levels of strategy alignment, as I mentioned earlier on. The organization will come out with its corporate strategy. And the corporate strategy is simply strategy that is needed for the entire organization, as a whole, which ranges from stability strategy. The organization may decide to drive a stability strategy because the market is either saturated or they have gained so much of the market that all they needed to do is to consolidate their gains and prevent competitors from taking a bit away from them. Or where an organization realizes that it has done so much investment into its asset, and for that matter, they needed to deploy the asset to demonstrate some return on this asset. These are all various reasons why an organization may decide to drive a stability strategy at the corporate level. Yes, I know we all want to grow, but it gets to that point where organizations decide to drive stability strategy for the next 3, 4, or sometimes 5 years of the company. Otherwise, the common one is the expansion strategy, which is the growth strategy, and that we normally use the Ansoff metrics. You're either doing a market penetration, selling the same thing to the same people in more quantities. Otherwise, you are also doing what we call market development, where you are selling the same product, but you are defining new market, either by segmentation or by geography. Otherwise, you're also doing what we call product development, where this time around you are growing, but you choose to grow by selling new products to the same market base. Otherwise, you go for diversification, which is selling new products to new markets. If you look at the 4, according to Ansoff, the least risky is the market penetration, because the market is known, the product is known. But when it comes to diversification, the market is new, the product is new. Just like Toyota did with Lexus, which happens to be the third most used luxurious vehicle around the world, because they decided to do a diversification. Otherwise, the company may also be driving a retrenchment strategy. Retrenchment is where you get to the point where you have gained so much so that some divisions are even serving as a drain on the rest, and you got to cut off, some in order to drive some sort of focus to drive, results. I mean, when General Electric appointed Jack Welch as its CEO, one of the first things he did was to drive a retrenchment strategy at the corporate level. Jack Welch took over about 200 businesses under the conglomerate of General Electric Group. And within the first 4 years, he sold about 70 businesses. Now, he made more profit with the 130 business areas left relative to the entire 200. So retrenchment is also an area. I say in my strategy lecture hall, I mentioned names of a few companies. I'm teaching on air, so I cannot say that here. That if ever I got appointed as a strategy consultant to some of those firms, the first thing I'm going to do is to drive a retrenchment strategy, because I thought that they are too diversified in terms of spreading their resources and energy. Then a final one is a combination strategy. Combination strategies are normally driven by multinationals that are huge conglomerate that have various interests. So retrenching some, you are driving that kind of, you need a very experienced chief executive officer to be able to drive that kind of strategy. Good. Now, beyond the corporate level are also business level, or what you choose to call generic strategies. An organization can have different business interests. So when you take a typical bank, for instance, SME loan is a business interest. Treasury is a different area. Offshore banking is a different area. Personal loans is a different area. Name it. These are all different areas. These are all different, areas that organization may have interest in. And according to Michael Porter's generic strategies, you're either driving what we call the cost leadership strategy, otherwise the differentiation strategy, or the focus, the cost focus strategy, or differentiation strategy. Now, my real interest is in the functional. And so let's quickly get there. Now, so I mentioned already that we keep goals at the corporate level. Out of those goals, various functions have to develop their objectives in order to address the goals or help the organization to achieve its goals. So when a functional manager fails to understand the corporate direction the organization is going, whether we are driving a stability, a growth, and even if it's a growth, what kind of growth are we driving? One of the modules we teach in our CSP, our Certified Strategy Professional, is competitive and growth strategies. A very experienced strategy expert teaches that module for us. Now, as an HOD or a functional head, your understanding of this environment then helps you to appreciate, which direction you are going to as far as your objectives are concerned. Many a time, organizations will have goals in various areas. What you see on my screen, I'm only suggesting them to you. Focus area 1, you want to develop goals that address product innovation and service quality. Otherwise, your focus area 2 could be on customer satisfaction and market growth. Your focus area 3 on operational excellence and efficiency. Focus area 4, asset growth and financial maximization. I consulted for an oil company in Ghana that was starting in Ghana, and the CEO asked that we develop a 5-year strategy for them. My first engagement with the CEO was to tell me which area he wanted to keep his focus, whether it was going to be on product innovation and service quality, or on customer satisfaction and market growth, or operational excellence and efficiency, or asset growth and financial maximization. It will not mean that when you focus in any of these areas, you are neglecting the others, but it helps us a lot to set the goals for the company and take strategic decisions on the strategic initiatives and project that organization got to be running. So I have a litany of goal areas you may want to consider at the corporate level. from market leadership, that is simply your market share, setting goals to address that, your growth in terms of increase in sales, in terms of increase in assets, your return on investment and profitability is a goal that will drive at the corporate level. Efficiency, that is how to run low costs in the organization, that will have a direct impact on the profitability of the organization. Otherwise, capitalization and shareholder worth, dividend for shareholders is an area. Utilization of resources. I have consulted for a few companies, and when you look at their balance sheet, beautiful balance sheets, but the balance sheet only tells us the financial position of the company at a given point in time. As much as those assets remain in the company, the organization's profitability is quite low when you are looking at the income statement of the organization. So you need to set goals that address utilization of resources and return on asset and equity. We also can set goals that address reputation and brand image of the company, contributions to employees' welfare, contributions to society in terms of taxes to the government, charity, and corporate social responsibilities. Technological leadership, innovation, and creativity are also areas. And then I put one in red. I don't have the time to address it now. Sometimes, depending on the position of the organization, we can also establish goals that help us to survive and avoid, bankruptcy. Now, based on everything I have shared with you now, the functional manager's understanding of the business environment, the functional manager's understanding of the strategic environment, the functional manager's understanding of the goals that the organization have set at the corporate level, then we will now get down to how do you develop your objectives. Remember, those goals must have what we call SMART goals. They must be specific, they must be measurable, they must be attainable, they must be realistic and time-bound. And we have put a small C there, which I borrowed from Michael Abiu. SMART C. The C is challenging because too many organizations hide behind the goals must be realistic, and therefore they don't set very realistic, they don't set stretching goals. I just returned from both Akosombo and Adam for two different companies. And when I look at their goals that they have set from the beginning of the year and how come we are reviewing them now, and they were all over so happy how they have bashed their goals, etc. And I was telling them that I don't think these goals, if I look at your SWOTs, if I look at the capabilities of your organizations and the resources at your level, you have set two mediocre goals. And so we believe generally in strategy that if you're always bashing or surpassing your goals, chances are that you are not setting high goals enough. So to develop a functional strategy, these are the steps. 8 quick steps, and then we are out of here. Number 1, seek to understand the organization you function in as a manager. You cannot do finance in a bank the same way you would do in a manufacturing firm. You cannot do HR in a telco the same way HR will be done in an NGO. You cannot do marketing for movable consumable product, fast-moving consumable product the same way you would done in, say, a hospital. You must understand the organization you function in as a head, as a manager, as a senior manager, leading your team, leading a department of the company. You must understand the organization's mission, its vision, its values, and not develop goals that are at variance with the direction the organization wants to go. The next thing you want to do is to understand the organization's strategy. Yes, I am a functional head. I am required to come up with a functional strategy that helps the organization to address or to achieve its goals. First and foremost, what is the environment? Do you appreciate the larger spectrum of the strength and the weaknesses? Did you appreciate the EFE, the external factor evaluation we do when we are striking a balance between the opportunities and the threats of the organization? How much do you understand of the political environment, the economic environment, and all of its indicators, from the inflation to exchange rate to GDP to disposable income to the CPI, the Consumer Product Index, etc. How much do you appreciate this environment of the organization? Do you know why the organization is pursuing the goals that it says it wants to pursue? from capitalization to profit to return on asset and equity, to the brand image of the organization, and etc. And then, do you understand the strategic evaluations we did in order to come up with those initiatives, and how a budget is developed to address, all of these challenges? Now, a research that was conducted by the McKinsey Consulting Group, sought to suggest that managers at the lower level, I'm talking about branch managers, line managers, the guys who manage people and activities, a whopping 72% of them are managers, all right, do not understand, strategy. And then above all, the one that shocked me the most is when I realized that some 24% of executive managers, those are the C-suite, some 24% of them do not still understand strategy. So I asked, what then are you doing? What are you pursuing? Just having a list of goals in the name of a plan and pursuing them? You may be succeeding out of a fluke, but when the fluke is that stroke of luck, when the dynamics, the concepts, or the call it the what is responsible for your success, if those dynamics begins to change, because you are not operating in an environment of strategy, you may not know what to do to address that issue. I encountered this question in one of the organizations I consulted for last year, whether VUCA has not rendered the idea of strategic planning useless. May I kindly say here emphatically that VUCA is the more reason why strategy must be done and done well. And the strategy is done well, we must be able to envisage possible changes in the very next few years. And even at that, every one financial year, we go back to do some sort of review to that strategy to ensure that we are able to relate it to its environment. That is how come you have, organizations that once upon a time were large companies and were succeeding, very successful firms, and today they are no more because they were only succeeding out of stroke of luck because the conditions seemed constant at the time. And the moment the dynamics, the indicators begin to change, then the managers found themselves quite wanting. So you want to understand the organization strategy. Then now you analyze the function. If I say analyze the function, I am then looking at what is the primary purpose why that function, that department you are heading exists in the organization. You have to do that analysis to know the number one reason why marketing, or let me say sales, exists is to close deals. Whilst marketing people are making the noise, finance, etc. And whilst I break it down in process number 4, which is establishing functional objectives and initiatives. By understanding your function and why it exists, the finance people will usually concern themselves with issues of funding and making sure that there is capital structure for the organization, investment and asset location. Those are the key reasons why finance exists. The risks management part, the cash flow management, the financial planning and its forecasting, having various policies that address financial decisions in the organization. Cost management is one key area. Depending on the environment you find yourself, the industry you find yourself, and who your regulators are, you got to appreciate how to strategically do your financial reporting and ensuring that there's transparency. Tax strategy must really represent and align, and issues of general financial performance of the organization. Whilst those guys in finance focus on these areas, the operations guys are looking at issues of capacity planning, supply chain management, issues of process design and improvement, quality management, inventory. Strategy is a huge thing. It speaks to every facet of the organization, logistics and distribution, automation, resource allocation, etc. And then the HR guys are looking at how do we align people, how do we ensure that talent acquisition is not just done because we need a number of people. We are not just interested in head count, we are also interested in skills inventory. Because especially talent at the management level, we will be talking about 4 key types of talent at the management level. Those who are the thinkers. These are guys who can bring new product, new services, new ideas. They must dominate management when organizations are within their first 5 years because they can bring about new things. Then we have the builders who are more like entrepreneurs within the organization, or I choose to call them, start from the scratch project management managers within the organization. They can take ideas and get them materialized into into reality. Then we have improvers who can take old systems, bureaucratic organizations, processes, and improve on them or build on them. Then we have producers who I call the engine in the organization. These are the guys who can replicate the same process over and over again to ensure that the organization is always getting good results, So the HR guys are in charge of making sure that all of these things are properly aligned: employee development and training, performance management. And you are not just managing performance out of a vacuum, but within the spectrum of the strategy the organization, is pursuing, issues of compensation and benefits. Because sometimes, no matter how good a strategy is, if you don't even have a culture that aligns, and like Peter Drucker blessed the world with that statement that, strategy or culture will have strategy for breakfast. That no matter how good your strategy is, if there is no proper culture alignment. And who are the guys in charge of creating this culture? The HR guys. Then we have the manufacturing, or call them the manufacturing or the producing department in organization, from production planning to control, which must be well suited or situated within the larger spectrum of the direction the organization has to do. So if I were, for instance, a production manager or in charge of manufacturing, the first thing I want to look at is to see the organization's goals on product innovation to help me develop my objectives that will be synchronized or will suit the direction we want to go. Quality management, how to ensure that we reduce costs on the plant, etc. Then there are also marketing and sales people who are the lifeblood of the organization. How do they do their target segmentation to ensure that the direction the organization wants to go, we can meet? The moment you're able to define a market for yourself, it helps in every other decision that organization takes. So you must understand your function, then you establish objectives and initiatives based on the goals that organization have. The fifth thing you do in developing a functional strategy is to allocate resources. That is where issues of budgeting and etc. Comes into the picture. You want to do an allocation of resources to help in delivering on your functional strategy that support a larger corporate strategy. Now, allocation of resources. Anytime you hear the word resources, 4 things must come to mind: the financial resources, the physical resources. These 2 normally we refer to as the hard resources. Then we have the human resources and the technological resources. Call it the soft resources. Now, when I say technological, I'm not only referring to IT. I'm also talking about the organization's creativity, innovation, time management. All of them are put together. We refer to them as technological resources. The challenges I have seen in my consulting career with companies is how to marshal a balance between the physical and the hard and the soft resources. That is normally the challenge, because too many companies lay a lot of emphasis, if I may say, too much emphasis on the physical, the hard resources, to the neglect of the soft resources. And so they end up burning a lot of financial resources and achieving very little. Now, take people, for instance, which is an integral part of the soft resources. No organization, and I repeat, Not one. No company can outgrow the collective knowledge and experiences of the people who run it. The organization's level of success, the organization's growth rate, etc., is always commensurate to the collective knowledge and experiences of the people who run it. So in my leadership class, one of the things I talk about is how when you develop the people grow the business. Grow the people, they grow the business, not the reverse. You don't grow the business and the people grow. No, just focus, especially if you're in executive management, because really running an organization is involved just two things: leading people and managing the technical areas of what you do. And many a time when you get the people bit wrong, chances are that all the others don't get sorted very easily. All right. So your ability to marshal a balance between physical resources or the hard resources and the soft resources is one of the key areas. I have developed some 3 yardstick or lenses from which we measure the success of an organization. From the number 1 is the organization's people engagement, where they are coming from, how they are trained, how they are developed, how they are optimized and positioned to deliver on product promises to customers. Then we look at the organization's customer satisfaction. And when I talk about customer satisfaction, I am not talking about sales. High sales is not always tantamount to growth, all right? In fact, this is how Brian Tracy put it, that until there's repeated purchases, there will not be sales in the first place at all, right? So if I talk about satisfaction, then the third one is organization's cash flow. Now, many a time, and I sit on a few boards here and there, and when you go to board meetings, the discussions are always on the big issues. How do we increase capitalization? How do we ensure that there is an increase in total asset, profitability, reduce costs? Nice stuff. One of the questions I will normally ask is whether our people are happy. If the people are happy, chances are that a lot of the big things we are discussing will not run. Now, I actually measure them in that order: people engagement, customer satisfaction, cash flow. If you don't get the first one right, which is the foundation, what I call employee engagement, chances are that your customer satisfaction is going to suffer. And when your customer satisfaction suffers, I have an idea how your cash flow will be looking like. And we have developed various metrics for organizations to measure all these 3 levels, because everything about an organization's success, whether it has future or not, etc., can be measured through these 3 lenses. I call it the health of the company, the 3 perspective. And if you're a senior manager, if you're a CEO listening to me, go and do your homework in these 3 areas and don't mix them up. It always starts from the people engagement, then you look at the customer satisfaction, and then you can then determine what a cash flow should be looking like. Beyond the allocation of resources, the next thing we do, and I'm wrapping up quickly, the next thing we do in developing a functional strategy is to develop what I call implementation or what I call action plans. That's a very complex thing I'm unable to do right here on this screen with you. But developing an implementation plan requires that we identify what battles we got to fight, otherwise this strategy will not see the light of day. You cannot be a company who is manufacturing food or, let's say, pharmaceuticals without getting around FDA, Food and Drugs Authority. That's the battle you got to fight. So we identify the battle, what are the key issues involved in that battle, then we look at the risk or the implications if these battles are not fought. Then we are not won. Then we look at what are the strategic initiatives we are going to take to address these battles so identified. Now, each issue you must identify when you are starting, what resources you must put in, and when the session comes to an end. And if you may, who will be in charge? And then that is the point we introduce the RACI chart to you. The RACI, which is an acronym for who is responsible for this activity, who must we hold accountable, who must we consult or learn support from within the organization, who must be informed. Normally, the one who has the accountability is the same guy who must have the approval power or the power to veto a continuation or discontinuation of an activity. And I normally say that don't develop a RACI chart for the entire organization. No. develop RISI chart for various departments and functions and organizations. It becomes more effective when you have to do an implementation of a RISI chart within the implementation plan or action plan so developed by the organization. The action plan is what we actually use to track. So a lot of those, your every Monday management meeting, every midweek we meet, monthly report, they must all be connected. They are control measures we put in place to be sure that we are actually delivering on the implementation plan that have been put in place at the functional level in the organization. The next thing we do is to communicate and align your team. I have already said employees do not follow documented plans. That thing that you, some 25 managers went to do at Royal Senchi. When you bring it down, you think the 1,000 people will just take it because our managers say and it is documented. No, they are going to follow the leadership power that is thrown behind those documented plans, because the human mind is fundamentally conservative and resistant to change. And the only time people truly get motivated to change is when they understand the consequences of inaction. So you're not just communicating this is what we got to do, you also are communicating why we got to do it. Because a change that is imposed is a change that will most likely going to be opposed. So your ability to communicate, make sure that it cascades, it trickles down to everybody within the organization, and that you align your team. Unfortunately, we have reduced communication to announcement sessions. I didn't say put your team together and make announcements to them. If you are doing an engagement, it means that you are willing to take feedback from them, to answer their questions, etc. And you don't walk into the session with a stereotype or prejudiced mindset that, well, the only way we are going to find 9 is when we add 5 to 4. The last time I checked, 7 plus 2 is also 9. 6 plus 3 is also 9. 0 plus 9 is also 9. So who said the only way we get 9 is when we add 5 to 4? The challenge when we are communicating is that we go and do announcement instead of doing engagement. And that has been one of the major recipes for failures of various strategies around. And like I mentioned, because I've been through well over 200 organizations, I have seen some of these things. Beautiful strategy being developed. We file it, come down to Accra to implement. And according to, what's the name? Michael Porter's sponsored research conducted by Boston Consulting Group, 48.6% of all strategy plans do not even see the light of day. Now, 48.6 is a near half. 50% of all companies that bother themselves to go do strategy sessions don't even have the strategy, seeing the light of the day. A few, insurance firms I'm currently working with in reformulating their strategies. The areas that I'm emphasizing is let us have comprehensive implementation and, for that matter, communication plan. And the final areas is to do constant reviews and alignments. Constant reviews and alignment. Strategy is not a static plan. No. Strategies are emergent. They are fluid. They keep changing as the environment keeps changing. But as much as possible, we say that when you develop a strategy, stay the course. Make sure that the variation between what a strategy says and what you are doing, there can be a minimum variation. So we are not saying don't deviate at all from what a strategy plan says. If at the point we're putting the strategy plan together, we didn't quite envisage a few changes within the environment and they come, what we need to do is to go through proper change management. Now, change management is a leadership and strategy agenda. We can't just do a strategy and at the whims of one person, we are doing another thing. You demoralize the team. So I normally say that when you develop a strategy and you have to change, go back to the strategy environment. It doesn't mean that if we did a strategy at Aqua Safari, we have to go back to Aqua Safari. What I'm saying is that the people who were involved in putting a strategy together should be the same people you must call into understanding why, though at the time the strategy was being put together, we say we're going to do A, B, C, D. The exigencies of the time or the external environmental factors call that we do a change to read. That way, everybody is on the same level with you, and then the strategy does not suffer any major blows. But we need constant, reviews and alignment to the strategy in order to make some very good success. So I'll be concluding here. Maybe we want to take your questions, but Very quickly, before we take your questions, which will allow me to explain a few more things. In just a few minutes, we'll be out of here. If you permit me to quickly introduce you to our Certified Strategy Professional Program, I'll do this in 2 minutes. It's a 10-week course, and it is run at the ILS Executive Center. We are located at East Legon. We run the in-person on Saturdays only, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Otherwise, the online runs on Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. The good thing is that you have the liberty to switch between the two options. Every weekend, you decide what suits your schedule. On your screen are the immediate past class, some 85 managers and senior managers who just ended their Certified Strategy Professional Program. You earn an internal executive certificate in strategy delivered by us. Otherwise, if you sit for the professional exam, you have the global body giving you professional certification in strategy if you pass the examination. But our pass rate is quite good. We are hovering around 80%, some 8 out of every 10 persons, or 80 out of every 100%, passes this professional examination. You can see the modules on your screen, from organizational strategy to leadership and leadership. That's module 1. Module 2 is on strategic planning. Module 3 is on strategy formulation. Module 4 is on competitive and growth strategies. Module 5 is on leading and managing change. Module 6 is on managing strategic projects. Module 7, business and financial analysis. You got to understand the impact of the balance sheet, the income statement on the strategy, etc. The module 8 is on strategy execution and control. Module 9 is quite a peculiar module. When you come, depending on the industry you are coming from, we put you in groups. So all those from the bank will come together and develop a strategy plan for a bank. We give you a hypothetical case and give you the political, economic environment, the strengths and weaknesses of the organization. Then you develop a strategy plan. A panel will look at it. Those from the telco, those from the oil and gas, those from the manufacturing, those from the non-governmental, public firms, etc. That presentation is done on our 9th meeting. And then on our 10th meeting, we do an assessment, strategy assessment for you. On your screen are the instructors at the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. One of our key visiting instructors is Mr. Kwekwa Awochi, the former CEO of Tullow Oil. Prior to that, he was CEO for VRA and also directed strategy for Anglo Gold Ashanti for several years. He currently chairs the UBA board. Then you have Mr. Samuel Alote, was an executive with the Stanbic Bank, later Gridco, currently chairs the Jospon Group board, and also a senior lecturer with GIMPA now. And then Grace Awochi, the Chief Finance Officer, Bank of Ghana Hospital. Then we have my good self, I'm the Adolf Pega, is the Chief Strategist for Absa Bank. Then you have Dr. Samuel Segla, management consultant with specialization in strategy, lectures with Ghana Technology University. Ebo Richardson. Ebo Richardson was an C-suite executive with Absa Bank, who actually led the transformation of Absa Bank into from Barclays to Absa. And then Michael Abiu sits on the board. He sits on the board of Telecel, CEO for MGA Consulting Ghana, and national president for Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana. So those are the instructors we have. You may want to consider joining our next cohort that starts on the 16th of August. And if you have our hotline, you contact, and then you are told how to go through the registration process. Please, you must clearly be in a management position or a professional in one area or another to qualify to sit in this class. We don't take, I just finished my national service, I want to study strategy. No, you won't qualify to sit in this class, respectfully. All right, thank you. Let me take the questions. I'm told there are loads of questions for us to address. I hope I can do that in 10 minutes for us to sign off, from this meeting. Right.
All right, and that was Dr. Jeff Bassey, leadership and strategy expert. Thank you so much, Doc, for that insightful presentation. For me, my take home is that employees do not follow documented plan. They follow the leadership power behind that plan. And so if you are a functional head, a head of department, a head of a unit, after developing your strategy, you do not want to just go to bed and give the plan to your employees to follow, but you also want to back it with leadership to make sure that they get you the desired results. All right, I'm sure we also have our take homes and nuggets. I've seen some questions also coming in. We'll take them shortly. We're just taking an ad and then we'll come back to take your questions and then we can wrap up for this evening. Thank you.
To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244-268672. That's 0244-268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives.
Okay, so welcome back. We'll just zoom into the Q&A session and then we can wrap up. So there's a first question here, which is a loaded one, but we'll try to tackle that. Okay, so we'll take the first question from Francis Kobina. He says that please, if there is a change in leadership and the new leader has a different version, how will you adapt your strategy? If another department goes directly conflict your functional strategy, how would you handle the situation? Doc, should I break them or I should just read them at once and then you take them?
Kindly read them at once. I can also see the question, so I will take it in bits when you are done.
All right, yes, please. So he says, the third one says, suppose market or customs needs shifts significantly, how flexible is your strategy to respond quickly? Right, so those are the three questions that Francis
very well. I would respond to these questions quickly, knowing that there are a couple of other questions. If there's a change in leadership, a new leader has different vision, how will you adapt to the strategy? Yeah, that is a real challenge. Now, one of the publicly or state-owned banks last year, 2024, we were fortunate to have them have us as consultants when they have to do a few things in the areas of filling some, key talents in their executive roles, And then in course of doing that work, the CEO of that state-owned organization asked me if we could develop a 5-year strategy for them. And I remember telling him that, well, this is 2024. December this year, that's I was referring to 2024, we're going to go to the polls. Nobody knows how the election or the result is going to go. In the event that the NPP loses election, chances are that the government is going to have a different direction for your bank. And even you yourself as a CEO might not be here. Well, I was just a prophet. That's exactly what happened. So I normally say that, for instance, if you are a state-owned organization, develop your strategy to fit that period where a particular government would be in power. Even for organizations that are not state-owned, I mean, CEOs come sometime, depending on the organization, there are 10 years of the CEO. Now, when you look at the horizon of strategy, you realize that the days where we used to develop 20-year strategy have changed to 10 years. Today, we are hovering around 5 years. Some companies are even doing 3 years. Well, that is largely dependent on the industry you find yourself. I mean, Tullow Oil came to this country with some $12 billion. You don't go develop a 3-year strategy on how to recoup $3 billion when they are even investing, doing capital, investment or expenditures that are, buying machines that are serving the company 15, 20 years, etc. But generally, the horizon of strategy is such that we are doing minimum number of years now. Now it is mostly between 3 and 5 year strategy. And I believe that can accommodate the tenure of a particular CEO or top management. But remember that the strategy itself must operate within the ambience of the mission and the vision of the organization. So chances are that we can't possibly have a certain management team or leadership team that would want to have strategies that sway the organization out of its mandate as a company. Then the next question is, if another department's goals directly conflict your functional strategy, that cannot be. Then what you are talking about will not be called a strategy. Because if it is strategy Congruency and synchronicity is the word. I had only 1 hour to do my presentation, but if I was teaching a full-fledged strategy formulation, I'll give you how the corporate strategy must inform the business level strategies, and the business level strategies what will determine what functions we'll have. So we cannot have finance having conflicting initiatives from HR. We cannot do so. Then what you are saying, what you are doing is that you are coming out with plans that you will pursue in silos as a management team of a company. And if you remember, I said that the goals must be common, held at the corporate level, and based on only those goals that every function will now develop their objectives. So if you're in an environment where you have conflicting objectives between departments, know that what you are pursuing is not strategy. You only have plans you are put in paper and you are pursuing. It's not called strategy, right? Because strategy there must be a sync. It must fit in, right? Now, suppose market or customer needs shift frequently. How flexible is a strategy to respond to this? That's why we do mid-year reviews. That's why every year we go back to do strategy formulation. So I remember mentioning that strategy is not a static plan. It is fluid, it is emergent, must be reviewed to suit the environment, because the whole idea of strategy formulation is about relating an organization to its environment. So when you fail to relate the company to the environment, you are not doing strategy in the first place. Next question, please.
All right. So thank you, Francis Cobner. We hope that your questions have been answered. Just some few questions on the official line as well. One person wants to know, he says that for organizations here to embrace functional strategy, what first steps would you recommend they take after this evening session? So I'll take it again. For organizations who are yet to embrace functional strategy, what first steps would you recommend that they take after today's session, after this evening session?
Adjoa, I think we have a challenge today with network, and actually some of our listeners did complain of network. Respectfully, do forgive us, but it's really not coming from us. I mean, we run that, we do a lot of virtual lectures, and so we have a very strong system. Unfortunately, I think MTN have an internet challenge today. I don't know if it is the whole country or the whole of Accra or only East Legon, but anybody in East Legon today will tell you that they have been challenged with network issues today. And so forgive us for the break. So much so that, Adjoa, I'm unable to hear you very well. I wish you can send me a WhatsApp of the question. Otherwise, just go to the next question. Send me a WhatsApp of that one and I'll respond to you, please.
Okay. All right. Then we can go to the next question while I send you the question I read.
All right, Adjoa, do I do what is on the screen?
Okay, yes, you can do that, please.
Can these strategies be applied to the administration of churches? Yes, church is an organization by law. It's a company limited by guarantee. And I see a lot of non-profits like churches today being run as businesses, and rightly so. So they have marketing strategies, etc. Except that because you are not profit motive, I mean, we've had a real opportunity of looking at strategies for companies like Compassion International Ghana, which not pursuing, profit. And so you must only, when you are applying these principles or this concept of strategy to an environment like a church, you cannot be looking at issues of profitability and the rest. But if you look at the goals, the samples of goals are exposed to you, you would realize that, there are much more areas the organization want to look at beyond whether we are making money or not. So my answer is yes. But even for the profit organizations, if I got hired as a consultant to a telco to do strategy, the strategy would look very much different than if I were doing for an oil firm and the rest. I did a strategy, 5-year strategy for an estate company in Ghana here. And the whole strategy was based on affordable housing. Somewhere midway in implementing the strategy, that was a 3-year strategy. After 1 year, when we went for our first strategy review session, the founder or the owner of the company said he was no longer interested in affordable housing, but he was going now into luxury homes. And that was a major blow. And we had to sit and review or realign the entire strategy if we were to drive it. One of the manufacturing firms, very big firm in Ghana, I don't have the permission to mention their name. I mean, they are running a total sales of about 2.1 billion per annum, strong balance sheet company. In 2022, we had to camp at Aqua Safari, and simply because we needed to address the FX, the exchange rate was becoming a big blow on the organization, and if we didn't review the strategy, so we couldn't just say, because the strategy had been developed already at a time where we didn't envisage that the city was going to depreciate that much, we're going to do nothing about it. And if indeed nothing was done about it, the organization couldn't fulfill or couldn't implement its strategy to the letter. So reviews are very normal things. And let me say once again, strategies are not static plans. They are emergent, they are fluid, they got to be reviewed every now and then when the external shocks begin to hit. So a very good strategic plan will actually have some shock absorbers, some control and risk management measures, so that when some of these things you couldn't quite envisage at the time the strategy was being developed can be well taken care of.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. We'll take the last question because we are far behind time. Doc, I've sent the last question to you on WhatsApp. You can kindly check for me.
Very well. So let's quickly look at the very final question. It said, for organizations yet to embrace functional strategy, what are the first steps that you will recommend? The first step is to enroll in my executive strategy program. That will help you. But you cannot just get up and develop a functional strategy if the organization was not already charting a strategic direction. So there must first be a corporate level comb, if you made business level strategies, for functional heads to now deduce functional strategies from them. Otherwise, you may have a functional strategy as finance, HR will also have theirs, marketing will have theirs, operations will have theirs, and you will all be acting in silos, and that will not be strategy. You're only developing long-term goals and pursuing. And I've seen it a lot where organizations call you for strategy session. You go there, and when you are creating the structure that will help them have a strategy, they're only talking about long-term goal. We see it all the time because developing strategy is not very embedded within loads of Ghanaian companies. I see it in a lot of the multinationals in companies, but the indigenous firms do not have. Probably that is why you want to consider getting strategy skills by taking a strategy program. All right, so Ajua, maybe you'll be ending it here, and let me have my last word before you sign off with them. If you want to contact the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, do reach out to 0244 268672. 0244 268672. Our next cohort starts on the 16th of August. Registration is ongoing. The class is actually almost full. People ask us, what's your closing date? We don't operate with closing dates. Whenever the class is full, we cut the admissions, and then the spillover will have to wait for the following cohorts in order to join us. And let's also once again apologize for the breaks in the network. I think MTN have some challenge within the East Legon environment today where we are delivering this lecture from. Do forgive us. Otherwise, we make very frantic effort to have seamless and unbroken network when we are doing presentations to you. Thank you all. Ajwa, you can take over and then kindly sign off the meeting.
All right, rightly said by Dr. Bassey. The next cohort of our Certified Strategy Professional course is starting on the 16th of August. I'm seeing some comments in the comment section asking that some are head of departments for GES and some other companies and are wondering if they can enroll. You know that strategy cuts across all fields, and so you don't have to be in a specific field to be able to qualify to take this course. And so once you are a manager, you're a professional in any field, you qualify to enroll in our Certified Strategy Professional course. And so you want to contact us on 0244 268672 for further details. Our time is fast spent. We will not be able to answer all your questions. And so if you have any further questions, you want to contact us on 0244 268672. Also, you can follow us on all our social media platforms at ILS Executive. We are very active on social media. on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and Instagram. And so you can follow us, and then you get more updates about the Institute as well. We are also located at East Legon, just behind GT Bank on the Menswick Hotel stretch. And so if you want to find us, we are at East Legon, just behind GT Bank on the Menswick Hotel stretch. All right, so that will be all for this evening and for this month, for our ILS webinar series coming your way every month. Once every month, we bring you some educative content. And so we want to sign off here, and then we'll see you again next month for our next webinar series. And so it's bye for now. Thank you.
To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244 268672. That's 0244 268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives. To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244 268672. That's 0244 268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives.